Tired of people being sad. Told my mom to leave my dad. Sometimes you just gotta go. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm here. It's New Year's Eve, so. I was kind of shocked by that. I'm watching a YouTube video. Anyways, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since last time I posted a video. I think it's been 2 months since I have uploaded a video. So it's weird being in front of a camera again. I'm gonna be completely honest there. Anyways, today well, you saw the title, but today I'm doing a book haul of all the books I've read in 2023. I've read a total of 13 books this year, which, even though it isn't that many books, like, there's people reading, like, 20, 60, like, a whole shit ton of books, and I'm over here with my cute little 13. But the thing is, I've been in this huge reading slump for probably 4 years, and I'm feeling like I'm finally getting out of it. However, it is slowly, and it only picked up towards, like, the last month of the year. Like, after Thanksgiving break, it kind of picked up. But, after Thanksgiving, a lot of stuff did happen. Well, even before Thanksgiving, honestly, a lot of stuff happened. Like, I got dumped, I got into a wreck, and then I just got super busy with school and finals, and worrying about my job, and just friend drama, life drama. And I haven't been as active this year as I have been hoping to be. And you can skip through all this if you want. I'm just doing like a little, I'll put like the estimated time on screen for when you're past all this, because this is all gonna be a thing. Anyways. Just letting you have that little PSA in case you want to skip forward in my video and get to the actual like book haul part of it. And also, I know I'm missing 2 nails. Don't come at me for it. They fell off while at work. I haven't glued them back on yet. Anyways, but I know that I haven't been very active this year. I am planning to be active in the new year. I still have plenty of time in the new year. Okay, I'm recording this. I'm probably going to upload it the same day I finish, editing it. I got off work and I put this on and now I'm here. I still have my work shirt on under this, but I'm wearing this and then pants. Like, green pajama pants. I look like the Joker. Okay, it's besides the point. Besides the point, okay? But, next year I do plan to do a lot more content. Now, as for my channel, it's not going to be as it has been. In the past, I have done a lot of just random content. I know on my channel, I went from doing purely gacha content. Like, that was all I did. I was constantly doing gacha content and stuff that has to do with gacha. And then I transitioned into more, like, random posts, and I mentioned other fandoms I was in that. And then as of late, well, before I kind of took my long hiatus, I have been doing just a bunch of, like, every video I post is cleaning or reorganizing my bedroom. Now, as for things like content, I am going to be changing my content once again. I know I'm giving y'all whiplash. I am sorry. But as I am getting older, I am starting to remember the things that made me happier. And one of those was like reading and writing and doing those. And so I have been trying to focus more on those because I remember being a happier person back when I read more and when I wrote more and when that was like my entire personality. So I'm trying to do things that are making me happier because I'm noticing that my happiness is slowly decreasing over time. Now, that rant is over, okay? I'm gonna post more in the new year. It's gonna be more book content. Okay, I don't know what type of book content, but it's gonna be more book content. So if you don't like it, so unsubscribe, whatever. Anyways, I am going to go ahead and jump right on into this haul on what I read in 2023. The 13 books that I read in 2023. And, well, almost 14, but technically 13. We'll get to that at the end. But yeah, so here we go. The first book that I read this year is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. It is the spin-off of the Twilight Saga, and look how thick it is. This was what I started off my new year with. I'm not complaining, honestly. This was a really good book. This book is definitely like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The series as a whole is probably more of a 4 stars, just because not Midnight Sun, No Moon really drags down that value, because it's such a like heavy book. It's not heavy, it's just bad. I don't like it. I don't like Midnight Sun. Oh my god, this is Midnight Sun. I don't like New Moon, the second Twilight novel. Or the movie. I don't like either of those. They both suck, okay? My favorite book in the whole Twilight saga is probably Twilight itself, because, hello. And then my favorite movie is Breaking Dawn Part 2. But that's besides the point. But this book is the retelling of Twilight in Edward's point of view. And it is... It is purely 817 pages of angsty teen inner vampire monologue, okay? The next book I read this year was Killing Floor by Lee Child. Now, I am fully convinced that Jack Reacher is a man whore, alright? Because I've read 2 of the Jack Reacher books now, and in both of them, he banged women. And I'm just like, okay. But this book was actually pretty good. I don't necessarily like thriller novels, and this is more of a thriller mystery type of thing. I don't typically like these kinds of things. And honestly, I like Lee Child as an author, I just don't like the way he writes women. He writes them as objects, and like, oh, she had big, like, it's men writing women, okay? He's an old man who wrote a woman, okay? That's the only part about this I didn't like. It was super, super slow up until probably the last 100 pages. And because of that, I am rating it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. But I really like the plot twist at the end. I like the way Jack Reacher is written. He is an ex-military police officer who always ends up in these like shitstorm situations where he has to be the one to get everyone out. Okay, so I don't have it, but the next book I read was The Great Gatsby of Scott Fitzgerald. This was for my pre-AP English 2 class last school year, towards the end of the year. I think it was March. That was a pretty good book. The Great Gatsby is a classic, so it's written in a different, like, it was a different time when it was written, so they use, like, different forms of words. They talk differently. It wasn't bad. It was a good book. It was more of a, like, I think it's more 2.5 stars, just because it has, like, the overused theme of star-crossed lovers. It could have been worse. And then I also read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This was summer reading for my AP Comp and Lit class, which I had to read, over the summer. I actually fully convinced myself that I was going to take this book with me to the Dominican Republic, and I was going to read it on the car ride, I was going to read it on the plane, I was going to read it on the beach, I was going to read it on the plane ride home. I was fully convinced that I was going to have this book finished by the time I got back from the Dominican Republic. I did not. That book went all the way to a third world country with me. Did not get read. I got, I think, 10 pages in, and I'm like, we were driving to the airport. Well, it was like the day before we were going to leave, but we were driving up there. We were going to stay in a hotel and then we were going to leave the next day. We were driving up there and I got 10 pages in and I'm like, screw this. So I just shoved it in my bag and it went all the way with me to another country. It didn't stay in the car. No, it went with me. I should probably I got the book back. The book is with my teacher, okay? It's not like I lost the book in the Dominican. But I'm just like, Oh my god. That would have been really funny if I had walked into school with that book and been like, Miss Daniel, guess what I did with your book? I took it to the Dominican Republic with me, and I didn't read it. I did end up actually reading the book, though. It was later on. It was like July before school started, and I'm like, I should probably do this book now, so I have like a month, where I don't want to do it. So I read it in, I think, a week, and I finished all the assignments for it, and I was ready for school to start. It was an okay book. Cormac McCarthy, he writes in such long, structured sentences. It makes the book seem a lot longer than it is, which is fine. It had a good premise. The story was good on its own. There were just certain aspects I didn't like to it, but it was your typical slightly biblical end of the world novel. It wasn't like a zombie apocalypse, but it was just, oh yeah, the world ended. They really didn't talk about how it ended. You kind of have to read a little closer into the lore of it. Honestly, I read this book so long ago that I don't even remember how the world ended in that book. Yes, I had to analyze it on a deeper level, but I don't remember what I analyzed it. Okay, I was more focused on the fact that that book went to another country with me. That's the next book I read was Blue Moon, also by Lee Child. This is another Jack Reacher novel. I don't know which one this is. Oh, I have not. It's that many. How many I've read there? I'm not going to sit here and count them all. This is further in the series. It wasn't that good of a book. Okay, so this next book that I read has been all over TikTok forever. And all of my friends read it, and they absolutely loved it. And I'm like, okay, I need to get my hands on this book. I really do. I need to read this book. And so I read this book more towards the middle of first semester. This book. A book has never given me so much heart-wrenching anxiety. Okay? I was reading this book and I was fuming. I was laughing. I was crying. This book made me feel every emotion so strongly, like more strongly than I ever have in my life. Mind you, I also read this book, like, I finished reading it right after I broke up. Like, I got dumped by my boyfriend. Like, my ex-boyfriend dumped me, and then I finished reading this book. Okay, so I had that, and then I just started sobbing when I finished this. If you need to feel something, if you have been, like, void of emotion for months, read this book. Okay? You'll feel every single emotion. I probably also related to it because I felt like similar, like there were a lot of similar situations to what happens in my life in this book. It has very, like situations that you can relate to very easily. But this book, right here, if he had been with me. The thing is, I finished this and I sat just staring at my wall because I could not comprehend anything. I was like, oh my god, I finished the book. What the hell? Like, what do I do? What do I do with this? I don't know what I do with this. Oh my god, I have hiccups. But it was just... Oh. So the next book I read was also for my my AP Comp and Lit class, and that was 1984 by George Orwell, which, if you don't know what 1984 is, it's like a dystopian, the government's watching us, like futuristic, paranoid type of novel. It's really weird. It's really weirdly written. I did not like it. It's probably one of the worst books I read this year, if I'm going to be completely honest. And honestly, I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't. I did read quite a bit of it, but I didn't, there were a lot of parts that I just didn't read. And I just kind of looked up because it was not a good book. It was probably the one book this year that I desperately wanted to DNF. It was horrible. I don't know how he got that big. I don't, because I still have 6 more books on my list to go. So I'm going to get another Diet Coke and I'll be right back because why would I just keep sitting here? I'm going to go get another Diet Coke because I'm thirsty. Funny enough, a coworker who I'm friendly with and have a mutual friend with asked for my number today, so we could talk outside of work. They're supposed to text me and they haven't yet. They've been off for an hour and a half. I don't know. Okay. The next book I read this year was As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. This was not a good book. I'm not going to say much on this book because it actually sucked. Essentially, he had an idea in one night to write a story about a family taking their mother to her final resting place, and it follows the point of views of all these kids. She has an illegitimate child with a priest who like is very insightful. She has all these children with her hateful husband who's just an overall douche canoe. And it's supposed to like relate on family themes and this and that and the other, and it was not a good book. I did not like it. It's also a classic. He also wrote like Animal Farm, and just look up William Faulkner and you'll see everything that he's written. This book actually sucked. This and 1984, I mean, probably both reside at like a 2 out of 5 stars, just because they sucked. They did. I'm not gonna pretend I liked them because I didn't. I really didn't. The next book I read was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Now, I'm not gonna get into this book, okay? Everyone knows this book. It has tons of like movie renditions. Everyone knows the premise of this book. Scrooge is a grumpy old man, learns from his mistakes. Boom! He is the spirit of Christmas. I love this book. It's definitely a 5-star read. I love it. Even though it's older and it is a classic, I love Charles Dickens and I love A Christmas Carol. Especially because he depicts like rich from poor, and yeah, has a special place in my heart, okay? Read it during Christmas, right before Christmas break. It was such a good book. I loved it. This book that I read, a friend gave it to me because he wanted me to start reading the series, and he gave me the first book to read. I had to give it back, but I finished it. It took me a lot longer than I would have liked, but it was Mistborn: The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This book was actually really, really good. I like fantasy novels to a certain degree, but I like romance in fantasy novels, and this book had like all that, and it like tingled my brain in a certain spot. However, it was one of those books that you had to listen to more than you could read, just because it was very wordy, and for me it was a lot easier to listen to it. But I think reading Mistborn was got me like, oh, okay, I gotta read more. I want to read. I like reading again. And it was definitely a good book to get me back in the spirit of things. And it was really, really good. And I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of the series. I really don't. But it's a good book on its own even. Like, it's a good book. And he paved the way to such a good, like, world and series. And he seems like a really, really good author. And I liked it. It's definitely probably a 4-star. It's not quite 5, but it's definitely a 4 because it's just a really good book. I like it. I do. I like it. The next book that I read, well, I didn't read it. I actually listened to it on Audible. It's How to Lose a Guy Before Christmas. I listened to this probably a day. And it was like a Hallmark movie in book form, but kinky. Because the main character and the love interest, they were a hookup a while back, and then they parted ways, and they came back because they were doing like a rideshare app together, and they were both heading to kind of the same direction. Well, they were heading in the same direction, but different cities for Christmas. And their car kind of broke down, so they had to make a stop at Tinseltown, I think it was. And it was a kinky retirement community. So I heard some weird things in that book. But I mean, it wasn't a bad story, honestly. It depicted a little bit of sexual content, but it was still really wholesome. It was funny. I enjoyed it. It was a good, like, Christmassy read, especially since I didn't watch very many Christmas or even Hallmark movies this year. It was a good book to get me a little more in the spirit of things before Christmas, because I finished this probably the last day before break. It was a really good book. I enjoyed it. It had a special place in my heart. Now, the next book I read this year was Shadow Tyrants by Clive Cussler. It's a novel of the Oregon Files. I had to listen to this because it sucked. I did not like this book. I mean, it was okay. It had a good premise to it. It just wasn't something that I really wanted to read. I don't really like these types of books. So I have one more book to read. It's Clive Cussler, and I'm hoping to get that out of the way fast, and I'm gonna listen to it on Audible. I had to buy it on Audible because my credits didn't roll over, but honestly, it's worth it buying it, because I bought them out on sale too on Audible. Got the books for free, and then I bought the audiobook on sale on Audible. It was like 30% off. I'm like, okay, I'll buy it, 30% off. That was loud. I'm sorry. Headphone users, I'm sorry. But it was a decent book. I mean, probably a 3-star. I don't have anything like big to say about this book. It was a book. And then the final book that I have actually read and completed this year is Amber and Dusk by Lyra Celine. This is her debut novel. There's another novel in the series, and I'm pretty sure she is publishing a book in 2024. This was actually a really, really good book. I love this universe. I love the way she writes. I did read it a few years ago, so I remembered some parts of it, but then I reread it because I was like, I want to read the second book. I never did. So I'm going to reread it because I remember not liking this book. I remember reading it and being like, that book sucked. And then I read it this time, and I'm like, oh my god, this book is amazing. And so this actually makes me really want to go back and reread the book Candle and the Flame, I think it's called, by, I don't know what ethnicity she is. I just know she isn't white. I don't want to say what I think she is because then it's going to be wrong. Okay, I'm going to look up the book so I can tell you what area the book is from, and because I don't want to screw this up, okay? By Nafisa Azad. I really don't want to butcher that, but I think I did. But yeah, I read I own the book. I read it. Oh god, when did I read that book? It was back in, I think, like anywhere from 6th to 8th grade. It was like from 5th to 7th, I think, actually, because I did not read anything my 8th grade year. I read maybe one book my 8th grade year. But I remember not liking that book. But anyways, I'm gonna get off that tangent. But I read this book. I reread it, actually, and it was really good. I did end up listening to the audio version of it on Spotify, only because I wanted to finish the book, but I wanted to do other things, but I still wanted to know what was going on. Other things were just kind of making me more happy, so then I just put this on and I did the other things I wanted to do. So I still got through the book, and it was free this time, so I didn't have to pay for it. But it was a really good book. You know what? I honestly enjoyed it. And I'm excited, but also kind of anxious for the second one. I don't know what the second one's gonna entail because this one ended on a pretty good note. So it's one of those books where it ends so well that you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen in the second one? I'm scared. Yeah, this was definitely probably like 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star. It was really, really good. Oh my god, it was such a good book. It was so good. And I read it in like 3 days. So it was super easy. I don't know how I read it so fast. Okay. I'm almost done, guys. Okay, I know I said I have 13 books. That was my 13th book. However, I am currently reading a book. Like, I am reading it as we speak. So, like, editing page real fast. I messed up that clip. It's Patient Zero by Jonathan Maberry. I'm not even going to show it because it's all sorts of messed up. But this is my current read. I'm halfway through it. It's a zombie apocalypse book. I'm pretty sure it's the first book in the Joe Ledger series. Jonathan Maberry also wrote the Rotten Ruin series, which I absolutely adore. So I'm reading this book. That's my current read. So we're gonna get back into like the rest of the video real fast. Those are all the books that I read this year. I definitely read a cute little handful of them. I'm gonna be real here. I didn't expect to read this many books this year. Honestly, it hasn't been a great reading year, but it hasn't been that bad. Sometime in 2024, I am going to release a video of the books I anticipate to read this year. I am trying to read all the books on my TBR by my birthday so I can get more books for my birthday, because there's a lot of books I want to read that I haven't yet and have been sitting in my Amazon cart for a long time. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing everything that I read this year, even though these are not all the books mentioned. I still hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, look, they look so pretty all stacked up together. Can I balance them? Shit. Anyways, bye guys.